Okay, if you're an Anne Cleeves fan, Jimmy Perez is back. This is The Killing Stones. After several years, Anne Cleeves has brought back D.I. Jimmy Perez. So, D.I. Perez has left Shetland and settled into his new home in the Orkney Islands with his partner in crime and in life, Willow Reeves, and they're expecting a baby. After a wild storm, Archie Stout, a local personality and Perez's childhood friend, is found bludgeoned to death, and the clues seem to link somehow to the local museum. Perez finds it hard to stop his feelings clouding his logic, but Reeves is on hand to keep things by the book. This book is both the ninth book in the Shetland series, which I think the last Shetland book came out about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's the first in a new series featuring Reeves and Perez as like a solving crimes together. The story shifts between the two of them in two plot threads, where each is in a different part of the Orkneys or part of the region, doing different aspects of the job and kind of coordinating with each other. I like this as a way of structuring the story, and it sets it apart from other Anne Cleeves series. So I was like, this is kind of interesting, a little bit of a different structure. It's fun. I've watched the Shetland TV series and I enjoyed it. And I actually thought I'd read one of the books in this series before, this particular Shetland series, but I realized that I haven't, which was quite strange. So I wonder if I was confusing it with, there's a series, I think Two Rivers might have been the one I was thinking of. Of course, Anne Cleeves is an old hand at detective stories by this point, and her different series are all really popular. They've been made into TV shows and stuff. She captures a sense of place really well, of landscape and climate, but also locality and way of life, like the way people speak and think in these places, the smallness of the community and how that impacts people's lives. This book is set on Westray, I think that's how you pronounce it, a small island of generational farmers and fishermen, a very close-knit community, and it's just before Christmas. It's a wild, remote landscape, and winter itself becomes a bit of a key player here in how things have to play out. The ancient landscape lends itself well to a story that has an archaeological bent to it as well, things like old local traditions and knowledge and stuff like that. The plot is detailed and very twisty. Each time the story takes us in one direction, we're kind of stymied by some new development that means we've just been fed another red herring. I really like this. I enjoyed sinking into this story. So I really enjoyed that part, but the problem comes at the end. So what kind of happens, without telling you any spoilers, but the author kind of has painted herself into a corner, because each time we think the killer is something to do with this or that person, then something happens and it's like, oh, it can't be that person, right? So when we find out who the killer is, it just feels really out of left field. It feels like the author has just picked someone and then like shoehorned it in retroactively. It's a character we don't know much about. They're not very well developed and not sort of filled out. And you could not have known it was them from clues in the book. So when Perez or Reeves sort of makes the jump and goes, oh, okay, I think I know who it is or whatever, there's no way you could know as a reader. And that's kind of, I don't know, it feels lazy. And also the motive for what happens, it's like a current social concern that you'll see a lot on social media. So it just kind of felt like, oh, okay, we'll just tick this box and make it like this sort of social concern of the week, shall we say. So that felt a little odd and disappointing, because that's not something I would ever expect from Anne Cleeves. Also, the issue with the core of the ending, the reason the person did it, feels really oddly handled. Perez feels sad at the end because it's a person he knows, obviously because it's a small island, he knows everybody. And the attitude seems to be that the person was sort of, oh no, they got misguided in some way, There's not really a lot of horror about the impact on the victims and how what they did was really disturbing. It's like, once you find out, you're like, wow, this is it's like an episode of a podcast. Like you would do a whole series on this person of like how they hid it so well, like what was going on with them and what they were doing, and like the impact on the lives of the victim of this person is huge and far-reaching and kind of horrifying. And it's sort of a little bit dismissed as like, oh, he's just a bit misguided. Like, to do the things that he does, he would have to be like a dangerous sociopath. So it was odd, a little bit uncomfortable, the way it was sort of, I don't know. I was also left wondering, and if you guys have read this book, I kind of love to hear your opinion on this too. Perez is supposed to have been really good friends with Archie. They grew up together and stuff like that. But they have completely different morals, values, like that kind of thing. So I can understand that maybe they were thrown together a little bit when they were growing up because it's a small village and it's like you just kind of have to get along with people. But we're supposed to believe that they're close as adults. And by the end of the book, like even early on, I was like, okay, but he does this and he does that. Like he's not a nice person. By the end of the book, you realize like he's incredibly selfish and he's kind of a creep. So I'm like, why would Perez, like a detective who would understand on some level, you know, the mind of a criminal, or Archie isn't a criminal, by the way, but you know what I mean? Like those kinds of personality types. I can't imagine why he would be friends with Archie. Like, how would they even spend time together? Because surely Archie's behavior would be making him uncomfortable or putting him in an awkward position. So that was odd because I was like, their friendship doesn't make any sense. Anyway, like to sum up, like on the whole, the book was entertaining to read through like the main part of it, but the ending felt weak and tacked on. Like the author couldn't figure out an ending that worked maybe, or maybe that even she wrote the book and like left it sitting there because she didn't know how to end it and just kind of tacked this ending on to send it to the publisher, if that makes sense. Like maybe it's been this idea that she's had, you know, like almost sort of 75% finished or something, and then added this ending to be like, well, let's do another Jimmy Perez book. I'm happy that he's back as a detective. I would definitely read more of these. It hasn't turned me off Anne Cleeves at all, but it's just not her best book. But yeah, if you are an Anne Cleeves fan, or, you know, you like your detective stories, your UK or British detective police procedural type stories, like you could get it, you could read it. I think you'll enjoy it overall, but that ending just does not work. Yeah. Anyway, thank you to PGC Books, because they are the lovely people that sent me an ARC of this book so I could review it and share it with you guys. If you've read this book, I would love to hear what you thought of the ending. Maybe it didn't bother you. Maybe it did. I'd love to know. Also, do you have any, like, I was just thinking about other mystery stories where the ending feels like that doesn't make sense, or that feels kind of tacked on, or they couldn't possibly have done that because on page 3, you know, like whatever. I would love to hear, you know, your least favorite detective story where something's kind of like just failed to make sense, or the ending just doesn't quite work. I would love to hear that in the comments if you have time. Because I always love hearing you guys in the comments. You always have such interesting things to say. And thank you for joining me again, or for the first time, if it's your first time. And I will chat with you guys again in the next one. Thank you.